order of the day number 1.
Mr.
Estimates Bill. Adjourn debate on second reading and amendment proposed thereto.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 2013 was a very good budget. A very good budget for New Zealanders. It confirms that New Zealand is on the right track. It forecasts economic growth for New Zealanders. It forecasts more jobs for New Zealanders. It forecasts rising wages for New Zealanders. And it forecasts a return to surplus by 2014-15 for the government's books. All the issues that matter to New Zealanders right across the country. All the issues that this government has been talking about for the last 4 years. And I have to say, all the things that the Labour Green opposition have consistently opposed at every opportunity. The budget builds on the momentum created over the last 4 years as this government has grappled with probably the deepest depression in the economy since the 1930s, the global financial crisis and the dreadful earthquakes that have wreaked such havoc in our second largest city, the beautiful city of Christchurch. In order to rebuild this country's economic performance, this national-led government has set 4 priorities. Firstly, to responsibly manage the books, and it's clear from the budget that we are doing an excellent job of that. Secondly, to build a more competitive and productive economy, and again the budget shows that we are doing exactly that. Thirdly, to rebuild Christchurch, and at $18 billion investment from this government, we are certainly working hard to rebuild that city. And fourthly, to deliver better public services, and the Prime Minister has set 10 targets across a range of ministries in order to deliver those services to New Zealanders. And it's that latter point that I want to focus on today. Mr. Speaker, if we look at all 3 of the portfolios that I have responsibility for, police, corrections and the Serious Fraud Office, they have certainly had an outstanding year. Corrections at the end of last week was named by the Trans-Tasman as the Department of the Year. Recorded crime is at its lowest rate in 24 years, and reoffending rates have fallen by nearly 9%. So Budget 2013 provides the platform to continue to see lower crime, further reductions in reoffending, and that will enable the portfolios that I have responsibility for to achieve their better public service targets. Budget 2013 made $10 million available over the next 2 years from the Justice Sector Fund to establish new services to support prisoners on their release into the community. And in the next couple of weeks, we will be making announcements about the details of this. But it is very clear to us, as we've rolled out the expanded programs within corrections, both within our prisons and for community offenders, of increased educational opportunities, increased skills training, dramatically increased the amount of alcohol and drug rehabilitation available to offenders, transferred 3 prisons into working prisons, where prisoners will have a very structured 8-hour day of both working and training. Revamped our youth prisons, so again those young people have a very structured day that revolves largely around education, but gets them into the normal habits of ordinary young New Zealanders to help them when they go back out into the community. It has become clear to us that as 3/4 of our prisoners do return to our communities, the next area that we have to focus on is what sort of support we give to those people when they have completed their sentences and are returning to their homes and their families and their communities. And so simple things like connecting them into the social service agencies that they're going to need to support them through the next few months. As much as we might try and get them all some form of employment, that's not always possible. So they do need to have some assistance. They need accommodation. Corrections tell me that several hundred prisoners could be released much earlier into the community if there was accommodation available to them. But of course, unfortunately, many people don't want to have a newly released prisoner living in their street, and so accommodation becomes very difficult. We do want to provide employment. It is very clear that if we can get ex-offenders into employment as quickly as possible on their release, then they have a much better chance of not returning to prison, not breaking the law. And of course, for many of them, they need ongoing assistance around just plain basic living skills, how to budget, how to manage a bank account, how to keep themselves and their families clean and well-fed and living normal lives. So we are certainly looking at how we can provide those services to prisoners as they are leaving prison in particular, and whether that sort of program needs to be extended to some of our more high-risk community offenders. Mr. Speaker, it's interesting when you look at the results that corrections have seen over the last 4.5 years, that we are starting to see that drop in reoffending rates, nearly 9%. We've set a target of 25% by 2017. But when you consider where they came from, when this government took office, the probation service had been run into the ground. Under the previous Labor government, it was seriously understaffed and seriously underfunded. This government injected $255 million into the probation service alone to try and get it back into some shape so that it could deliver services to do the job that New Zealanders expect it to do. And the result from under this government has been, now we see 4.5 years later, it has been named as the Department of the Year. And even though the day after that came out, we did experience a group of prisoners, 29 prisoners in Spring Hill Prison, run rampage. It was interesting to me and heartening to me to see that the response from the corrections officers was absolutely perfect. They followed their professional code to the letter. They showed that the extra effort that we have and resources we've put into safety training have paid off. They followed those procedures and protocols exceptionally well. But more importantly, when it became clear that fire, which is the worst possible danger in a prison, where you have, and we did have, many prisoners who had locked themselves in their cells rather than participate, those prison officers then risked their lives to go in and save the prisoners who had set fire to their own surroundings. Very brave actions, and fortunately for me as Minister, I would say we are very lucky that we had no serious injuries out of that from either our officers or any of our prisoners. So, Mr. Speaker, Budget 2013 has set us up both in police and corrections and SFO for another exceptional year as part of the justice sector that this government is ensuring is effective and delivering good public services to New Zealanders right across the country.
Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And this is a split call with my colleague.